everybody. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy.
Welcome to Worldview.
Oh, no.
Episode 44. We're
If this
back.
is your first episode listening, stay tuned because it gets better, hopefully.
This is a palindrome episode. 44, same
Both
forward and
ways.
backwards. So, yeah. Hey, if you're joining us, if you've never joined us, we talk about worldview. We look at pop culture and the things around it and the worldview that it pushes, because everything pushes the worldview. And so we want to talk about those things.
And compare it with a biblical worldview.
It's true.
Yeah. So we're going to be looking at how to stop an alligator attack. Why are comedians the saddest people on earth?
So sad.
They are.
But first, T Swifty dropped a new double album.
Double album.
We reacted to the music video, so you can check that out.
Yeah.
And I reacted to it twice now.
So nice. Had to do it twice.
I just react to all the Taylor Swift things. But Adrian, not a big Taylor Swift aficionado.
Oh, aficionado. I thought you were going to say fan, because I can't say that. Because I could be a fan. Here's the thing. I have somehow gone through life without experiencing Taylor Swift.
Wow.
Except
Shake
for
It
that.
Off.
I heard Shake It Off on the radio, you know.
All the time.
All the time.
So I liked early Taylor Swift. Like, she was still sort of country.
Yeah.
We weren't sure. Nobody knew for sure if
Yeah.
she was country or what.
Is she the teardrops on my guitar girl? Is that someone else? Is that Avril Lavigne?
Yeah, probably.
Let us know in the comments.
She did the Romeo and Juliet song.
Oh, I do know that
Is
song.
she she wears short skirts, I wear t-shirts?
That's Avril Lavigne.
No,
it is her.
it
That's
is Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jeez.
Okay, so I guess I am familiar with some of her stuff,
More
but
popular.
like
The OG stuff.
Was
never.
it 1988? That was, or 89.
89.
Yeah, that album, I listened to it a lot. Welcome to New York, was that on that one? Or is that another album?
Don't ask
Avril
me. I
Lavigne.
don't know anything.
I'm asking you. You're a professional. No,
I'm not the professional.
so yeah, but 16, that was a song, because I teach class in schools about love and relationships and all that stuff. And that song, it says when you're 16, somebody tells you they love you, you're going to believe them. And so we talked about that, like, hey, you're at this age right now. And I wish she would have taken her own advice in that song, because she made some bad relationship choices. But
Did she?
She writes good songs about them. No, all her songs about like her breakups and people.
That's what I
leaving her
know.
and-
So that's what I'll say. Coming into this album, the things I know about Taylor Swift are that she is from the news. She dates a lot of people. She writes songs about them. And I did read something about this album where it's like she doesn't say a lot of things publicly about her life, but she writes about them, and so you get a hint of like what her life is like
These are her public therapy
through
sessions.
her songs, instead of her just like doing interviews and all that kind of stuff.
Right. So what? Yeah. So what were some of the themes that you picked up in the albums?
So like I said, I have really no experience with her past music at all, so I'm not coming as a Taylor Swift expert by any means. It's just almost like a reaction to what this album is.
Yeah.
Just without any other
and
context.
What's the name of the album? Actually, I liked it quite a bit.
No idea.
Oh my gosh. Why? This is so dumb.
It's
that we
something
don't
about
know.
poets or something.
Chris will Google it. So what are the themes, Adrian?
Yeah. Okay, so it's basically all relationships.
The Tortured Poets Department.
Tortured. I couldn't think of it. Tortured Poets
okay.
Society. Yeah, department.
Department.
Society. Tortured Poets.
Different show.
Carpe diem. Yeah.
No, I think it's a reference to another. Like, that's the thing, is looking up this stuff is like, this is a reference to this, and this song has, and her mention of a typewriter means that she's talking about this guy, and like all this stuff, and I got sucked in really fast, and so that's why I know it. Okay, so one of the things is like just straight gossip again. Like that's kind of what it seems like. And the very first song I listened to was called The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. That's the very first song off the album I heard. And I was like, I've got to know who she's talking about. So I immediately stopped listening to the album, started Googling all this stuff, and I was like deep into the weeds of like who this possibly could be. And then I'm like, I don't even know these people that she's dated.
It's like the Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where it's like it's Charlie Day, he's like connecting all those things. And
I was like, I immediately am sucked into this. And I was like, no wonder she has such a huge following, because it's like, it's good, catchy music. She's very like musically talented, and then there's also this like gossip aspect to it.
Well, and so our other channel,
we have so many channels.
Our pastor responds to, like, he tells you, he does a breakdown. I think I can link it if I figure out how, to like why she's so popular. Because part of it is that she's able to speak to a generation, especially girls, and like has kind of grown up doing that. And so so that's why you have these. She's selling out stadiums, like, because there's just this attraction to her because you feel like she gets you. Like, Oh, I've been through
that was going to be my next observation is listening to the songs. It felt like how I felt writing my diary in like middle school and high school.
Well, that's the thing. When you go through different situations like she went through, you need a song to get you through that.
Yeah.
So then even if it's like these sad songs about breakup, it's very therapeutic in that situation to, instead of just kind of internalizing your feelings or dwelling on them, having some way to represent it and in a song form, that would be very therapeutic.
That's very specific to girls too. Like the girls need some sort of like outside source to help them process.
Olivia Rodrigo is a little bit like that. I don't know if you've listened to any of her stuff. But
Driver's License.
Love that song.
Really? I that's the only one I know of hers.
But she writes a lot of those like breakup and like I'm mad at this person kind of thing. So
I think there's some sort of connection with her in this.
Oh, really?
One of her song titles is like similarly titled to Olivia Rodrigo song, and there's like connections there. It's wild.
Is there beef between them, or?
I don't know. I did not have time to go through I was too busy trying to figure out who the smallest man on earth is.
Well, it's funny.
Let us know in the comments. Olivia Rodrigo or Taylor Swift?
Oh, yeah. So it is interesting, though, with a lot of these artists, how deep kind of the lore of not only the music videos, but songs and just their whole lives, too. Because, like that, obviously, Taylor Swift, it's very deep where people are watching the music videos, they're looking for the details. NF was a similar way where
21 Pilots as well.
21 Pilots, and even going all the way to K-pop, because we've reacted to K-pop as well. Check out the description.
Oh, my gosh.
We're plugging everything. But really, it is like there's so many details that in storytelling they put in the video, and then it's all connected with different albums, and they're pointing back to so many different things where it's this giant story.
Well, it's kind of like what we're doing, plugging everything. It's we're going to plug everything that we've ever done and connect it all so that people... It's like the Marvel universe.
It's the full...
You feel left out if you don't consume it all.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah. Or the Muppet.
But when you come into it, is it too late? Because that's where I feel like with 21 Pilots, like there is some weird lore in their stuff. They're like they've been taken over and they're not even really who they are anymore. And so like they're like these fake people and they're making albums based like, and so there's all this stuff that if you're not in with it, you're like, I don't know what any of this means. Yeah. So do you feel like jumping into this album not knowing like all the background stuff? Was it?
Yeah, I was like, I gotta know everything about her.
Okay, so you're like in for it. So did you find out who the smallest man was?
There are. Yes, I did. I think.
Can you tell us?
The lead singer of 1975. What is his? I can't remember his name now.
There's a band called 1975.
Yeah, I was
Jagger,
like,
I think it was.
I was like, I'm too old for this because I don't know anybody anymore.
Paul McCartney.
No.
Okay, keep going.
But anyway, okay, I feel like we could go in a lot of directions with this because there are a lot of worldviews portrayed. Mainly the
Maddie Healy.
Yeah, that's him.
Maddie
Healy. That's right. So that's the smallest man who ever lived. Apparently, we think. So what are Swift people called?
Swifties.
Us Swifties think. No, I don't. I am not in that category at all. I'm slowly becoming. I'm on my way. No. But since we are worldview, especially paired with biblical worldview, what I wanted to pull out were her references to religion, God, Christians, because there are quite a few throughout the album. So here we go. I'm just going to read some and then we can react to those or talk about the worldview behind it. Okay, so there is a song titled Guilty as Sin. And it's really about the verse where Jesus is saying, like, even thinking, like, lusting after someone is the same thing as committing adultery with them. So it's her basically saying, like, I'm lusting after somebody. We've done all the things in my mind, that kind of thing. So but this one section she pulls out says, what if I roll the stone away? They're going to crucify me anyway. What if the way you hold me is actually what's holy? If long suffering propriety is what they want from me, they don't know how you've haunted me so stunningly. I choose you and me religiously. Ooh. So there's some huge religious, so like they're going to crucify me anyway. Yeah, roll the stone away. Like, what's holy, so.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I think are themes throughout her music, like especially her later stuff, is that the guy and girl relationship, or like a love relationship, is the ultimate thing.
Yes.
But for her, it's almost like this drug that she's chasing, like this high of like, I have to have a perfect relationship.
Yeah.
And she can look back at all her relationships and the broken hearts along the way and all that stuff, and she still hasn't found it. And I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
That movie.
It's not a movie.
It was in Sing 2. Oh. The lion sang it.
Wow. Okay.
So, but that's the thing. Like with, she puts a relationship in that spot of religion. I think, at least that's what I've seen from her stuff, and that's the holiest thing. Like that's, and if she has that, then everything's perfect. But it keeps falling apart.
Yeah, and we talk about like, it's almost like, if I would go so far to say, like a false idol or a false god.
Yeah.
And that's what it seemed very apparent and kind of through her album, is like, this is what she worships. And so thinking about that and the worldview that it is pushing, we just have to be cautious as parents and friends of like, hey, if you're listening to this, just make sure that this is not your worldview too.
Yeah.
But, okay, so The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, that song, she says, I would have died for your sins. Instead, I just died inside. So that's just a quick little reference.
Yeah.
So then this one's about church people. It says, I learned these people only raise you to cage you. Sarah's and Hannah's in their Sunday best, clutching their pearls, sighing, oh, what a mess. I just learned these people try to save you because they hate you.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's deep.
That is a good line, because if I hate you, because I feel like
I hate your lifestyle.
Yeah, you're a terrible person, so I'm trying to save you.
Oh, yeah.
That is.
Well, the thing is, I think that is very common amongst people who aren't religious. That's how they view people that go to church. Very much of, and it's probably very relatable to those people when they hear those words.
Because we would say, I want to save you because I love you. Like,
yeah.
Right.
But the reason I love you is because Jesus says you're an awful person and I need to rescue you from that.
Right.
But
they raise you just to cage you.
Yeah, it's like, it goes back to the whole, like, I look down on you, I think you're a sinner.
Yeah.
So I want you to know Jesus so you won't go to hell type of thing. And like blaming people for acting bad and then saying, but like, so you need to get right so that the world will be perfect. And that is not...
That's not our message?
That's not our message.
yeah, because, the reason we want people to know Jesus is so that they can experience life to the fullest. So they will know that love that does surpass earthly relationships and meaningful relationships.
Yeah.
Like it's like even if you have great relationships on earth, those aren't going to fulfill you.
Right.
And they're not going to give you what you want and what you actually need, which is a relationship with your creator. And so to say I save you, you want to save me because you hate me. I think from a worldly perspective, that's, people outside of the church see that because it's like, oh, they're sinners and stuff. And there are people in the church that do look down on people.
Yeah.
That
Well, and thinking about
Jesus.
that, instead of like saving them as, out of love, it's more of like, they're bad people, so we just need to fix them. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's how they are seeing it, where it's not even like you're trying to save someone from something, but you are just trying to fix them because you're better and they need to get on the same page.
Yeah. Right. But if everybody realizes that we're all broken people and need a savior, because I've met people like that are like, oh, in church you got to act this way and you got to be this certain person, all that kind of thing. You're like,
right, like you have to clean yourself up to be there.
Yeah, and so if that's the message, then why would I want to be a part of that? Like, oh, you're telling me I can't be who I am or whatever, but it's like, no, we're all messed up and we all need Jesus, and so we come in the same way. I'm not better because I follow Jesus. Right,
because Jesus is the only perfect, sinless person, and and he is offering this eternal love and unconditional love if we accept him. So that is that fulfillment and joy and peace that he's offering that I think she's looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and I think she grew up in a Christian household and things like that. And so,
well, and honestly, a lot of times it is even instead of like the intellectual reasons of like trusting the Bible and stuff like this, a lot of people's hang up is personal experiences that they've had with Christians.
Yeah.
So it could be from her parents raising her and always feeling trapped, or having people where, you know, these church people act like they're better than everyone else, like they don't have any issues. They look at you like you're this terrible person, everything like that. So despite the message of Christianity, that is your perception of it just because that's the personal experience that you've had. So for a lot of people, that is what keeps them away from Christianity.
sadly. All right, do you have a few more?
Yeah. Just this last one. The song is called "God Save the Most Judgmental Creeps."
That's the name of the song?
Yeah.
All right.
Taylor.
God save the most judgmental creeps who say they want what's best for me, sanctimoniously performing soliloquies I'll never see, thinking it can change the beat of my heart when he touches me and counteract the chemistry and undo the destiny. You ain't gotta pray for me and my wild boy and all this wild joy. If all you want is gray for me, then it's just white noise and it's my choice.
Man, she's a good lyricist. That is
I don't even know
good.
what soliloquy means.
Like soliloquy.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we figured that out.
I don't know. It's like a solo, like
So you don't know what it is either.
it's a single verse. Yeah, are you looking up soliloquy?
Yep, an act of speaking one's thoughts aloud when by oneself or regardless of any hearers. So it's like when in a play, like if somebody were to have this long by themselves, just like saying something for a long time. That's what it's
soliloquy.
Romeo, oh Romeo, wherefore?
Oh, soliloquy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just you come out and say your.
So what was
say your
she
piece.
saying in that one?
She's saying that if you follow Jesus, your life is going to be boring and dull and stupid, and that if anybody wants you to live that life, they are a terrible person. Because when I'm living my true self, that I'm going to be the best, and it's going to be colorful and awesome and great. But anything else apart from that, if I'm trying to live under this veil of religion and this chain of cage religion, then it's going to be black and white and awful. It's going to be gray. Don't make me do that.
Wow.
That was good.
Did you know that beforehand?
No,
That was like
yeah, because
That was
a
Chris's
little mini sermon.
That
there.
was his soliloquy.
Yeah, that was a soliloquy. Thank
Right
you.
there.
Leading by example here. No, but it says, that's the thing is like me and my wild boy and all of this wild joy.
Yeah, and keep reading the colorful.
Yeah, if all you want is gray for me, then it's just white noise and it's my choice.
Well, yeah, because a lot of people do think that to have life to the fullest, it's like if I could just do what I want, when I want, how I want, with no restrictions at all, then I will live my best life.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
It is a lie. And again, play that out. And
What happens?
I think we've seen, she herself has been unfulfilled all these years. She's still writing these songs of extreme heartbreak, alcoholism.
and
Functional alcoholism, though.
Yeah. And even with Matty Healy and stuff, he's he has addiction with drugs. And so she talks about that in that one song. But that he was reaching out to her friends for pills and stuff like that. So it's she's definitely in that world of drugs and alcohol.
Because if there's no restrictions and you're literally just trying to live life for the most pleasure, you're going to go for things like sex, hard drugs, alcohol, and all these things. And then, it will be pleasurable for a time. And then down the road, it's going to totally wreck your life. And you're like, oh, okay, maybe a completely unrestricted life isn't what I wanted.
Right. And we find as Christians, there's that relationship with Jesus, but he also calls us to relationship with each other, but right relationship and community. And those are the places I can personally say that I have felt the most fulfilled in my life is when I am in right relationship with God and others. And I am not, we've talked about this before, is we're not a consumer, but we're actually a contributor.
Yeah.
And when we're contributing to the betterment of other people and not a selfish focus on ourselves and what we want, that is when we're actually most fulfilled.
Because right now, Taylor Swift, every moment of her relationship is about I'm going to find this fulfillment in this person.
Yep.
And that's actually using them because you're going to provide this happiness for me, this joy.
Yeah.
You're going to provide this for me. And when you stop providing that, I'm moving on. And so the very thing that she wants, like this deep, fulfilling relationship, is never going to happen with that other person because she is just using them to try to find that.
Yeah.
And as soon as it goes away, it's on to Travis Kelce. Like, I mean, it's on to the next. It's on to the next person. It's on to that. She's chasing that high that she's never going to get because us white noise people are trying to tell her, like, hey, your fulfillment is going to be in Jesus. It's going to be in that relationship, and then that's where the meaningful relationships will happen afterward. Because I mean, we've talked about this before, but like in the beginning, when God created man, there wasn't a suitable helper for him, but he had that relationship with God. And that was good, but he also needed relationship with others. Like there needed to be another relationship that was going to help, like that. Those three relationships: the relationship with himself, the relationship with Eve, and the relationship with God. Like those things had to work together to bring fulfillment to him. And so this actually transitions well to our next topic. We got Florida foible.
The alligator. I'm like, this transitions to our alligator story.
Well, coming up, we're going to talk about how we try to find this fulfillment in other things that is just not going to work out if it's apart from God. So,
But first, alligators.
It's time for Florida foible.
Now, if anyone's new, what exactly is this segment?
So a foible is just
like
like
a Florida man segment, basically.
Yeah. So a foible, it's like a mistake or a goof or some kind of thing. So
crazy stuff happens in Florida.
Yeah.
Every week.
Because they report stuff. So, oh man. So I just read the headline. Florida man runs over 11-foot alligator with truck to save neighbor from attack.
Hold on. I will have you guys know that one of the songs, I already said this, one of the songs in the new Taylor Swift album is called Florida with 3 exclamation points.
Wow.
And I was like, this will transition perfectly to Florida.
Speaking of Florida.
It's a song about, I ran over my alligator with the truck. It's because she goes back to country for that song. Yeah, so this guy's out walking 2 of his dogs, and this is Rick Fingere. I'm going to say it like that. And he's walking walking his 2 dogs, and his neighbor, Walter Rudder, he, quote, was driving, and we saw a man lying on the ground waving his arm. As he pulled over and got out of the car, he realized that this man's leg was trapped in an alligator's jaws. What? So this alligator had somehow come out of the weeds. I don't know. The dogs weren't barking or anything, but maybe they ran away. I don't know. But grabbed this man's leg.
How do you know the dogs weren't? Does it say all that?
I don't know.
That's speculation. We can't prove it.
Yeah, I'm just making up stuff. So, but then, so the guy's like, run it over. So this guy gets back in his truck and runs over this alligator. Doesn't kill it. The alligator runs away. He like lets go of him and runs away.
Wow.
They got some tough skin.
I guess so.
Turned into purses and stuff.
Yeah, returned to the water, and Rudder was taken to hospital where he is now recovering. So,
jeez.
Whoa.
Yeah, so
this guy was just like on a walk, and
an alligator
just jumped out at him.
Yes, so I don't know.
Florida is the worst.
He forgot to zigzag. You're supposed to zigzag so they can't get you.
Yeah, so
is that for alligators?
Yeah. It's not for bears.
Zigzag, yeah, they can only see in straight lines. So you zigzag, they're like, what?
Like a T-Rex.
I can't handle it. Like they can't look at MC Escher paintings. It drives them crazy. They need those straight lines. All right, so the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission said this: resist the urge to test your sprinting skills against wildlife, whether it's an alligator, hog, or a particularly intimidating squirrel. Remember, they've been training their whole life for this.
You think hogs are...
You have not. Oh, wild hog?
Oh, they're crazy.
Oh, yeah,
wild hogs can't be broken.
Wild boar?
I can't imagine a squirrel training their whole life to chase me.
They're like doing bench press and stuff.
An intimidating squirrel.
Yeah, not just any squirrel.
You never seen a squirrel jump from a tree to another tree?
Well, yeah, but I'm not.
When's the last time you did that?
It's been
Never.
training its whole life to
Them fellas
chase
are crazy.
Not to chase you, but they've been running from other things.
Yeah,
and then they've been hunting
fast.
things down.
They're
Yeah,
fast.
so yeah, they're like you sprinting against an alligator. Not going to turn out well.
unless you
never
zigzag.
thought me sprinting from anything. I would never assume that I would outrun anything.
As Mr. Finger A learned from the alligator. So yeah, so
he just ran over it.
Avoid wildlife. And yeah, and his neighbor was like, oh, I better run over this alligator with my truck. I like that as a truck because that's Florida for you. But yeah, so have you guys ever
Ford tough
had to like save somebody from an attacking animal or?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I have a story.
Okay.
What? It's an alligator.
So I was at growing up, our house, and I heard screaming, and I opened the door, and there was a girl running, trying to outrun 2 German Shepherds.
Wow.
Which are very intimidating.
They've been training their whole life for this.
German? Yeah.
She ran into
Germany. So we know what else they've been training.
She ran into her house, which was across the street from ours. I recognized her. She ran into the house that was across the street from ours, and she was trying to get away from him, but they pushed the door and they followed her into the house. And my instincts kicked in.
Was Angela there too with you?
I don't know.
I thought so. But okay, keep going.
Apparently really dumb instincts. But I took off running and I ran into that house. And
she killed those dogs.
those dogs in my
strangled them.
But
she got her car, ran over and through the house.
No, and I ran in the house, and the thing was, thankfully, these dogs were friendly, and they thought she was playing.
Oh.
So they were like trying to just kind of jump on her.
They only got her arms off and not killed her.
Yeah. But she was just so scared of them.
Yeah.
So she was fine. Like she ended up, I think she got like on a table or a couch or something. And then I just kind of like shooed the dogs back outside.
Get out your dog. Oh, get out.
Yeah, but it was, they like.
Maybe they were drug dogs and she had a dime bag on her.
As a 5-year-old.
Yeah, but those dogs ended up coming back, and they were the ones that knocked our mom down in the yard and broke her thumb.
Oh, yeah. What?
So the same dogs came back, and they were actually trying to attack our dog.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
One of them had his head, my dog's head in his mouth.
Oh, good.
Because my dog was small. And so my mom went out there, and they were like, they knocked her over, and she broke her thumb.
Jeez.
So
them dogs.
I know Mom listens to this, and she'll be like, why'd you have to remind me of that story?
So, Jimmy, you ever?
So not from a person. It was funny. Me and Malia were walking around the block the other day, and these 2 little dogs, like a fat Chihuahua and a little Yorkie, ran up to us across the street, and their owner was like outside, and we thought they were all nice and stuff, so we just kept walking, and then one of them bit Malia on the ankle.
Oh no!
Yeah,
Yorkies are mean.
So that was. But I did have. We had a Rottweiler that lived next door, and we had a pug, and we had the pug outside, and they had an invisible fence. The Rottweiler had. So the Rottweiler came across and then grabbed our pug and was like slinging it around.
Gosh.
So my dad had to run out there and like tackle the Rottweiler and get the dog, and we had to like take him back inside. And
he ran that Rottweiler with a truck.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Rottweiler in our neighborhood that attacked our dog too, and the lady, because she had one of those giant metal pooper scoopers, because you have to have that with a Rottweiler.
Yeah.
And just started beating her dog with it to let go. Like,
those things don't play around though.
They don't. They're scary.
So I had to almost save my dad from a Wolverine one time. So
Wolverine?
What?
Yeah. So we were. This is our side yard growing up in Evansville, Indiana, where normally Wolverines aren't. But we were moving wood. We had this big wood pile in the side yard. And we had solved that something had burrowed under the wood. I said, it's probably a Wolverine. And so, we're moving all the wood, and we finally got to the point where we could just tump it over. And we tumped it over, and there under, was this giant Wolverine that ran at us, and it was actually a rabbit, but in our brain. So I jumped, I flew back, and I saw my dad did the same thing. He jumped, my dad jumps backwards, and then he's like, "Oh, I saw you get scared." I was like, "I saw you jump too." So don't even act like he's like, "Well, we thought it was Wolverine."
This whole time, I don't know if I knew until this point. Is Wolverine also an animal and not just a superhero?
Yeah, it's an animal.
It's like a crazy badger thing.
See, I did not know this. The whole time I was so confused.
Wait, that's in Napoleon. Well, you weren't
never saw
born
it.
yet in Napoleon Dynamite.
But,
Never saw it.
Hunt Wolverines.
so the moral of the story is dogs are dumb. Stay away from big dogs. Just get little dogs. Unless they're Yorkies.
No, because then they'll bite your
Yorkies
ankles.
and Chihuahua.
Basically, dogs are just a detriment to your health.
They've been trained their whole life to bite your ankles.
That's
Be
true.
careful.
Okay, let's talk about
Speaking of ankle biters,
the saddest people on earth.
the saddest, we're going to talk about some comedians. No, actually, one particular comedian, Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien. So I grew up watching Conan. I didn't grow up watching when I was in college. Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Loved that show. Great comedian and all that stuff. He got the Tonight Show. Didn't last very long, like less than a year, I think, and didn't transition well to that position from Late Night. Late Night is a very different audience, and he can do a lot of crazier stuff. And so he's like, we're not changing. We're gonna be the same people. He changed a little bit, and so some of the audience that was like, we like the crazy Conan. Didn't transition well, and then people that like Jay Leno, who was on there forever. This is kind of like when a pastor takes over, like after a senior pastor has been there for 40 years. It's like
it's just hard to replace.
And so he just didn't do well. And then Leno came back, and there's this big fiasco and all this stuff. So then he got a show on TBS, but you could tell he was like a lot more bitter and stuff. And then in that transition from the Tonight Show to TBS, there was a documentary made that I haven't watched. I've heard about it and stuff and seen clips, but basically in that you find out that he like has to have the limelight. Like he has to be around people and he feeds on that in a very unhealthy way. Because like in the documentary, he's like, because he was basically doing stand-up shows and comedy and like music and all this stuff. And he's like, guys, I'm losing my voice. You have to, I'm losing my voice now. He's like, you have to. Yeah. So Conan said, I'm losing my voice. You guys have to keep me in my hotel room. Like, don't let me go talk to other people. Like, I have to rest my voice because I'm losing my voice. If I lose my voice, I can't do what I know I need to do. And then he like looks out the window and there's fans out there. He's like, I'm going to go talk to my fans. And they're like, no, you can't do it. And he's like, I'm doing it. And so, so he has a new show on TBS on Max, called Conan Must Go. And it's where he because he has a podcast now, Conan O'Brien Needs Friends or something. And so he'll like have fans call in and they're from like different parts of the world. And so he goes in the show, there's 4 episodes. He goes and visits them. I only watched the first 2. There is some swear. So content alert. There is some F words. And then the first episode, there's a little segment that you can actually skip, but it's like him talking to this lady about a common phrase in Norway. It's called sex before coffee. I'll say it. But it's before coffee, yeah. But it was an interesting concept because they're like they engage in sexual activity before getting to know the person. Like it's like a weird, it's a backwards relationship.
Try before you buy.
Yeah, so it's like a backwards thing. So, but he's having this conversation with this lady, and she's like a psychologist, and it's just so awkward and weird. But yeah, so skip that part. But yeah, so he goes to these places and just meets some of his fans and does just shenanigans and like does things in their culture and stuff. It's very funny. Like he just makes fun of them the whole time.
Of course.
His brand of humor is very he's very quick witted, but also like very biting and sarcastic and like just makes fun of people. And it's so good. Like the episode in Argentina, the lady, he's talking to his translator and he's like, what are some cultural things? And like, he was talking about like the kiss on the cheek. They're like, when you greet somebody, you kiss them on the cheek. And then when you leave, he's like, if you're at a party, you have to like kiss everybody goodbye. Like he's like, even if you haven't talked to him or anything.
Who said this? Conan said this?
No, the lady like that's talking to him. So they're like sitting out in this like open air market or whatever. He's like, all right, well, I'll see you later. Ciao. And he like gives her a kiss on both the cheeks. And then he goes to everybody in this outdoor market.
Oh my gosh.
And just kisses them goodbye. He's like jumping over the bar, like crawling, like he's just, and it was so funny. He's just like, oh, ciao. And he's like saying bye to everybody because that's the goal.
That's what they said.
And she's just like, what is this
So
guy?
is there a particular worldview you feel like there's a theme?
Yeah, so he was on Hot Ones, and he said like I want people to learn less about the country. They don't know, they know less about it when they're done watching the show than when they were on it. But there is like you kind of see these things of like he needs recognition, and he needs people to kind of feed into who he is. And there is some sarcasm with it, and he kind of like jokes about it some. But in the Argentina
Like he
episode,
recognizes it about himself.
he recognizes it about himself, but he doesn't do anything to deal with it. And one of my friends observed, like, he has this very self-deprecating humor, but he's like, but that's just an act. Like, he feels like I have to be known by people, and I have to. So he'll go to places and like greet people and all this stuff, and like he wants to be popular. He wants people to recognize him and to know who he is, and it's kind of an unhealthy thing. And so what I've like been watching with him, it's like he's always on.
Yeah.
It's like, because he was on the show Hot Ones. I don't know if you guys, I know you've seen it.
With Sean Evans. It's the interview show where they eat hot wings.
You've probably seen clips of it.
Oh, I have, yes.
So Conan goes on this show, and it's, I mean, and the guy, who's it, Sean Evans?
Yep.
He's a great interviewer. And so he takes his job very seriously, and Conan, like, says that about him. He's like, you do your little shtick with the hot sauce. He was like, but you're a very good interviewer and all this stuff. But Conan, like, he starts like, I have my doctor. And the guy comes on and like, I recognize that guy from his shows. Like, he's not, and he's like, how long you been a doctor? He's like, 4 years or something. And he's like, what school did you go to? He's like, I didn't. And he just, but it's like a whole bit. Like he has this bit, and then like throughout the episode, he's just chugging hot sauce bottles. Did you watch it before?
I watched like 14 minutes of it.
So he's like drinking the hot sauce, and the guy across the table is like, oh man, he's like, because it's like
it gets progressively hotter.
Yeah, and this is about halfway through, and Conan just like, he's like, is this all you've got? He's like, I want to taste something, and then the last one, he like, or one of them that's close to the end, he like licks the sauce off the wing, he pours a ton on it, and he's like, I feel alive, but he's, the whole thing is just him doing a bit. Like it's not like, and it may be tearing him up on the inside, but he shows no like.
Yeah, because I feel like usually what that show has been used for is like the hot sauce distracts them, so they are more honest.
Yeah.
Oh.
But for him, it was like
not. Yeah.
He was playing into it as much as possible.
Yeah. He was like, I am going to win this show. And it was like, it felt like one of his skits. Like it wasn't he did answer a few of the questions kind of honestly, but for the most part, it was like, he's doing this shtick. Like he's doing this show. And so I was thinking about that because Robin Williams was one of the kind of the same way. Like if you watch old interviews with Robin Williams, if anybody knows, the genie on Aladdin. But the old Aladdin, the cartoon.
Not Will Smith.
Not Will Smith. But he was that same way. Like he would be on these talk shows and like could not be himself. He was just another person and like out there just doing bits and like routines. Like, and he would like stand up and like get on the couch. Like he would do all this stuff and make people laugh, but he ended up committing suicide because I think there was this thing of like, I can't be who I really am because people have to like me and have to approve of me. And here's what they think, who they think I am. And people may not really think that, but this is who I think people think I am. And so I have to.
It might be like a bad case of imposter syndrome where you're like, I'm not really. I'm not really that funny. And if I am not funny, then people are going to be like, well, he's an imposter. He's not really a comedian.
So I forget who said this, but it was an interesting idea of, because a lot of times with comedians, they do, and Jim Carrey was the same way, where he made this character and that was what he presented to the world. And the person saying this, they said the problem with if you present yourself as a character who is not truly who you are, you can receive praise, but you can't receive love. So people can praise you and you'll take that as praise, but since they don't know the real you, you'll never actually internalize that as love when that's really what you're longing for.
And so now you have Jim Carrey kind of off the rails a little bit. And so it's like, I don't know if I like that guy. No, but
proving his point.
Yeah. And so, but it feeds into it because he felt like he kind of had to do the opposite of who he was. He's like, this is who I am. And then he became real weird because he was trying to like figure it all out because I think he played that character for so long of the over the top.
That's what's hard about being in the spotlight in general is like, you can't process anything without everybody walking through it with you.
Yeah. And I watched an interview with Jim Carrey one time. I think it might have been on Jimmy Fallon, maybe on Conan, where he came out on a treadmill and ran fast the whole interview. And you're like, what is going on? And like they didn't, I mean, they talked about it a little bit, but he's like, ask me a question. And so he did the whole interview just running. And so you're like, I mean, he has to be this over the top thing, and that's what when watching Conan on Hot Ones, I'm like, oh,
it's the same thing.
and he's 61, like he just turned 61,
Oh my goodness,
and you're
really?
like he still has to have this need and I was thinking about pastors the same way, because it's like you feel like I have to be at this level and people think this about me whether they do or not, and I have to be holy, I have to be this, and if I admit any shortfall or anything, I can admit it up to a certain point. Oh, I have road rage, or I get mad at my kids sometimes, or like it's acceptable sin that I can talk to people about, but the real stuff that I deal with and struggle with, I can't talk to people about. And I feel like comedians and pastors, I'm like, oh, they're kind of the same. And
I think everyone experiences that on a certain level.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so what do we do about that?
Run them over with a truck. No.
Constantly run on a treadmill.
Yes.
You have to have people in your life that you can be absolutely real with, and that's what I've had. Unfortunately, just friends in my life make really poor decisions and stuff. And I have a group of guys I meet with every Wednesday morning, and they know my stuff. And that's because I remember just after going through just infidelity with not me, but another person that went through infidelity, and just people questioning my ability to lead and all this stuff. They're like, well, how did you not know this? And this person lied to us for a while. And so then I was reflecting on my own life, and I was like, I don't have secrets like that. And that's the most freeing thing for me, because I think that these people like Robin Williams and Conan and John Chris, we've talked about him on here before, and John Chris actually was able to get better and able to kind of find help that he needed. But because you have a lot of comedians and pastors that commit suicide, and people are like, well, how did we not see this? And because you only
They have
saw
a hidden life.
Yeah, you only saw their public life. And I remember I heard recently a pastor talking, and he said this other pastor was criticizing him and saying, hey, you get up there and you talk about how you're living for Jesus and all this stuff, and how you don't sin. And he's like, he said, but you're talking about this ideal perfect life, but you don't admit any of your shortfalls and shortcomings and stuff. You don't admit some of those things that you're doing behind the scenes. And he's like, I'm not doing stuff behind the scenes. He's like, I've got I'm living for Jesus. And he's like, yeah, I still sin, but he's like, but my trajectory is this way. And he's like, so if you're saying that about me, it's like, what actually is going on in your life that you're saying this? And then he said that pastor broke down and started crying and admitted all this stuff that had been going on.
Goodness.
And he's like, because you feel like I have to hide all this stuff because people have to see me as this good person. And but as a comedian or a pastor, you feel like if I admit this stuff to somebody, I'm going to get fired, or they're going to look down on me, and I'm going to lose my livelihood and all this stuff. And so it's so I keep creating this character, and I keep becoming this person, and I receive the praise, but I can't receive the love. And so then I'm dead inside, and I realize I'm in an awful place. And
so I think this is twofold. Is one, to think about getting those people in your life.
Yeah.
But two, the other side of that is, how do you react when people open up to you? I think I want to think of that myself and take that away as, am I a safe space, and do I perpetuate the problem?
Yeah, and I hope that I'm a safe space. But it's hard because you have to find the people that you can trust. But sometimes you've kept it in for so long that it just this is who I am, and I'm not going to change or whatever, and it becomes a tough issue to deal with. And I think going back to the Taylor Swift thing, she's got this persona that she's the biggest musician of all time. I mean, her records or albums or Grammys or what, all the stuff. And I think if she was well, I can't be who I really am. I became a functional alcoholic, and I said, nobody, what was the aesthetic, something but nobody noticed or something. I put on this new persona, but nobody noticed, and kind of thing. And it's man, I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed my new aesthetic. I was this way for so long that people didn't even notice it anymore. And it's I can't be real with anybody, and because if they knew the real me, they'd leave me again. And it's this perpetual thing. And so I think that, I mean, for any musician or pop star or anything like that, or actor, you feel like you can't be real, you got to find those people. And so I don't know. I have those people in my life for you guys.
Let us know what you think.
Let us know in the comments.
Who are those people for you? And let them know. But so, man, hey, I like this episode. Good job, everybody. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrienne.
And I'm Jimmy.
We'll see you next time.